Hello everyone, and welcome back to Weekend Moblin. I know what you're thinking, this channel is mostly Nintendo, but between Resident Evil and Killer Instinct, I think we've made a point that we don't care to talk about other systems. With that being said, the Final Fantasy Remake is right around the corner, and I, like many of you, have been replaying the original in order to get ready for the re-release of this title. But why not kill the time thinking about other games we would love to see get this treatment? Classic titles that helped shape the gaming industry and make it what it is today, just like Final Fantasy VII did back in 1997. The demo really opened our eyes to the possibilities of remakes done with this much care and attention to detail. There will be some on this list that have technically had remakes, but go play the original Final Fantasy VII, then play the new one, and you'll understand the point of this video very clearly. That being said, let's waste no time and jump right into today's video. Super Mario 64. Releasing September 29th of 1996 in North America, Super Mario 64 took the gaming industry by storm as it introduced so many 3D mechanics used in many games still today, and launched the 3D platformer into a household name. Selling 11 million copies by May of 2003, you can see this game is a title to be reckoned with. Many hacks continue to this day, bringing in features like multiplayer and even brand new Mario 64 experiences, not to mention the speedrunning scene for this game. I know we have Mario Odyssey, and is now held as many's new favorite in the series, but hear me out. Much like Banjo-Tooie, sometimes more isn't always better, but I think in Final Fantasy VII Remake, it's starting to prove when done the right way, it indeed can make a title an experience old and new players will both enjoy. That being said, what could make Mario 64 better? Well, new mechanics for one. Update the game to play more smoothly like modern titles and update the camera as well. This is Nintendo and they are the kings of polish, so I know they can handle this. Other than that, add in extra paintings by expanding the castle. Keep the overall feel and music of the original, but add in some new locations for returning fans of the series. Kinda like how it was with the 64 DS remake, but on a much grander scale and with much more love and care put into it. A forest-themed level like the Forest Maze, a new beach area, and maybe even a crystal-like cave like the level from Donkey Kong Country. There's much you can do and it wouldn't hurt the game at all, and would only increase the playtime without ruining it. Let's give this title the care it deserves and bring it into the new generation. Let's go! Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. Now this one is a big one, and maybe not the impact that Mario 64 had, but nonetheless it introduced many of us to the RPG genre, just like Final Fantasy VII, but not near the scale and story or scope. Nevertheless, to make this title modern, and to make these areas shine in the Mario universe way, but with that square polish, is gonna take some serious time. The music being remade, the characters, but with more side missions, and more time for character development just makes me excited. Finally, take the time to focus more on the story of Mallow, and more importantly, Geno. Give him more time to shine, and give us scenes from his past as a Star Warrior to make us get more attachment for the character that would make him much more likable for a modern audience. If he does indeed make it into Smash, something like this in the distant future would be a sweet outcome. The love for this character is there, and not just him, but this game alone. Have more interactions with Bowser, Mario, and Peach throughout the journey, and even have some characters join in that wasn't around for the original title. You don't have to make them party members, but seeing some new Square-inspired Mario designs and some familiar faces like EGAD would make for some great new content if handled correctly anyway. Add in references to some newer Final Fantasies that have come out since, and extra Easter eggs as well. Much like the Sleeping Link and Samus, maybe have some other Nintendo references spread throughout the land. Little Pikmin in Monster Town hidden before certain areas would be amazing, for a small example anyway. Seeing a more fleshed out booster in a remade sweating scene is too much to bear, and I can only dream that one day it happens.
Resident Evil 4.
I don't think I need to state the impact of this game, seeing as I've already done a video covering much on it. But with that being said, I feel I need to explain what I mean with this one. I know Resident Evil 3 has a remake right around the corner, and I'm excited to play it as well, trust me. And that's why when I say I want Resident Evil 4 remade, I don't mean within the next 2 or even 4 years even. All I mean is sometime within the next console's life, once the technology is there and they can truly wow us once again. Resident Evil 4, much like Ocarina of Time, to many of us is considered a masterpiece and gaming at its best. So touching this title is a very daunting task, and I can understand why it would take a long time to even want to get around to it, much like how Final Fantasy VII was treated due to its daunting legacy. But I feel it can be done. I've been replaying the title along with Resident Evil 5, 7, and the 2 remake, and I think I can see how there is indeed ways, shockingly, that this title can be improved. But like Final Fantasy VII Remake, this isn't about just improvements necessarily. It's more about making a new game with the same vibe and just as grand a scale for a new audience. And if any game deserves to be treated within the same respect, it indeed is Resident Evil 4. It's been 15 years since Resident Evil 4 first hit the scene, and it was 1996 that the original Resident Evil was released, and 2002 that it was remade, making it only a mere 6 years later that it was remade. Now, I understand the original was in much more need of a remake even at the time, but still, it's been over twice that much time since 4 was released, and I'm still asking years from now, like after 8 or possibly even 9 is already out. By then, we are looking at the game's 20th anniversary, and what a hell of an anniversary that would be. Speaking of impactful Super Nintendo RPGs, it might have been Mario RPG that got people into them, but the game that made many, much like myself, stick around for them was the 1995 classic adventure Chrono Trigger. In Japan, however, this title was the SNES title to own, selling insane numbers at the time of release. Much like any classic Square JRPG, the music would be pure magic to the ears remastered, and having Dragon Ball creator Akira Toriyama return for his signature style would take this remaster to the limit. I know I've asked Square a lot on this list, and this is probably the biggest one yet, but even if it's 10 years or more from now, I would love to know this game's story and characters got to be truly experienced by as many people as possible. Seeing the fight with Magus remade in the same vein as the Final Fantasy VII Remake is enough to make any fan of the series want to jump on this idea. Seeing the future in ruin, but with a more remade sense of depression and famine, is personally exciting to think about. The Kingdom of Zil remastered in its epic glory with the corridors of time epically playing in the backdrop is something of dreams. Being that Chrono Trigger was a long game to begin with, it's fitting that a few new moments and character interactions should be easy to fit in perfectly among the many events throughout this title. An updated fighting system much like the new one in Final Fantasy VII's remake would be exciting and would definitely go with Akira Toriyama's style and animation. Have more new endings as well for veteran fans to have many reasons to go back and defeat Lavos yet again. The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, and Majora's Mask. Yeah, I'm sure you already seen this one coming a mile away, and the thumbnail doesn't help matters. But here it is, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask both. I feel ya, that seems like a ton of work, and yeah, I agree it would be. But even with the same treatment as the Final Fantasy VII Remake, I just can't see them making Hyrule and Termina Fields much bigger than they already are. I sure would love to be proven wrong, but making them too much bigger would be at risk of the bigger isn't always better quote I said earlier, and the last thing I would want to do to these scarce titles is taint them in any way. The 3DS remakes are great, and I've beaten both of them too many times to count honestly, but when I see the Final Fantasy VII Remake and compare the love that went into that, and then look at what Zelda fans got as their remake to the rival of said title, I just can't help but think Ocarina of Time deserves better, and why not let my favorite in the series join in for the ride? Now here's the thing, I don't just want that, but having Link return to Hyrule once his adventures in Termina are completed, in the sense of it's the same Hyrule as the one from Ocarina of Time anyway, for one last Hero of Time adventure. It doesn't have to be that long, maybe 2-3 small temples, but having a new small story as a bonus for returning fans would be something I'm sure many of us would gain many tear-filled eyes over. The idea of the Space World demo becoming a reality, but even better animation for a remake like this, and the orchestrated music, it's as simply as good as it gets for me on a personal level. I love Breath of the Wild, but as I've stated many times, Majora's Mask is my favorite in the series, and the idea of more of that Link in new gameplay but modernized is enough to make me want to go grab the Triforce of Power, go into the Twilight Realm, turn into a wolf, and howl like a madman until I can't breathe anymore. It's that good. New modern mechanics and even new items for new puzzles. Don't change the story by any means, but adding in some extra character development in side quests is always welcome. And maybe even make us finally beat the Running Man and get some kind of reward from it. Expanded Zora's Domain and Kakariko Village. The Shadow Temple and the Well and its graphic detail and expanded as well. The idea of an HD Dead Hands makes the hair rise on the back of my neck, and I love it. Useless fact of the video, Dead Hands is my favorite sub-boss of any Zelda title. Adding in more things to do in the 3-day cycle in Clock Town, more characters, and even expand existing side quests, so we get to know characters like Cafe and Anju even more. And of course the thing I want the most of all, Stone Tower Temple remade with this much detail. That music and scenery alone sends chills to even think about it for a moment. And to top it all off, think of when you, spoilers yet again, get to the moon. That field is somewhere I could see myself spending my final moments. Speaking of final moments, I probably need to end this video before I go on too long, as I often do. That being said, do you have any ideas for these titles if they was to ever get remade in the same vein as Final Fantasy VII's Remake? Do you have any titles of your own you'd love to see done in the same way? Well, if so, go ahead and tell us about them in the comments below. And if you like this video and want to see more videos going over ideas for remakes in this style, please let us know and I'll be sure to make it happen. This has been Weekend Moblin saying stay tuned till next time, and thank you everyone.